Okay, so we are up to Mishlei, Chaf Gimel, Yud Zayin to Yud Ches, 23, 17, and 18. Still talking to the sun. Okay, I think. You know what? Actually, that reminds me. Hold on. Someone made a comment about this section. The Meiri yesterday. Well, not yesterday. The Meiri on yesterday's pesukim, I think says this is the beginning of a new section. Let's see. Meiri on, what did we do? 15 and 16 yesterday. He says, yeah, so he lumps 15, 16, 17, 18 together. And he says, Kol zosa parsha ad b'chachma yibane bayis. From here until chapter 24, pasuk 3, hakol inyan echad. It's all one subject. Okay, so he groups these four pesukim in a local cluster, but then there's a larger section. He says, Misaper b'hanhagas ha'av u'b'hadrachaso leben. This is talking about the father's governance and guidance of his son. V'hi he'ara koleles kol davar, and this is an all-encompassing lesson. V'einbo nister rak ma'at. There's only a little nister, a shtickle nister, right? Okay. Uv'nichnas b'dvarim hamagim el shleimus hamidos. Okay, and this is dealing with things that bring you to perfection of midos. So that's just a little introduction here, and then I think I saw someone else say that someone talked about also this section. Okay, fine. Well, maybe we'll see when we learn today's pesukim. Okay, al yikane libucha b'chataim. So again, this is the father talking to the son. Al yikane libucha b'chataim ki'im biras Hashem kol hayom ki'im yesh achris v'tikvascha lo tikaris. Okay, the second pasuk is hard to translate, but the first one I think we can do.
Don't be jealous. Do not be jealous.
Do not be jealous.
Don't.
Let's say do not. Let's say let not your heart be jealous. Let not your heart be jealous. B'chataim.
From sins.
So it's not sins. I don't think.
With your chatan.
No. So I think this. Okay, I'm pretty sure.
Sinners.
Yeah. Of sinners, chataim. I think chataim is sinners. Chataim. I think. Let me just. Again, I don't really know so much grammar, but I do read pesukim. Let me just see a pasuk. I'm sure we can find a pasuk.
I feel like I've seen that in other contexts.
Yeah.
The base.
The base can mean anything you want it to mean. So you can't always. So there's a common mistake when people are learning Hebrew is they always say bet. Bet means in, and then they don't think about what they're saying when they say it. Don't be jealous in sinners. You gotta cycle through the different possibilities, and then it's. I just quoted this to someone. I think it's in season 1 of Family Guy. Then Peter's going off and saying some stupid thing, and then Brian says to him, Peter, do you even listen to yourself? And he says, I tune in and out, and so I think when there's a thing when people are translating. So there's obviously a process where you're experimenting with different permutations and translations. But then when you say it and you expect a response, you got to listen to yourself and ask yourself, does what I'm saying actually make sense? So with a bet, it really could mean almost any preposition: in, on, about, with, for, under, you just got to cycle through all of them.
I'm just learning, I'm learning different grammar. So the patach and the this. The kamas, they mean different things. So that's I was just literally trying to understand what it is practical.
For the ba?
Yeah, ba versus ba.
Oh, yeah. So the ba versus with a shva, it would be in a, something let's say if you said read it the sefer, it would be in a book, but ba sefer means in the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or yeah, right. Yeah, ba is beha. Yeah. So what am I looking for? Chataim. Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's see the chataim.
Where it's just sin.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Right. What would be the difference between sinners and sins, grammatically spelled in Hebrew?
That's what I'm trying to find proof for. I'm saying it's the kamat under the tet.
Oh, right.
These are all chataim. Chataim. Is there no usage of chataim gedolim? That's got to be but that's the same though. And maybe I don't know enough about Hebrew to know what I'm saying. Let me just check out the Metzudas ציון here. Metzudas David. All right, so maybe does this disprove my theory? Because this is
Well, we could look at the context of the rest of the.
Maybe the beginning of Tehillim.
no, that's definitely people. I'm looking for an example where it's the word sins. But all the examples I just found were sinners. Like I just read all these 20 examples here, and they're all sinners. They're all sinners. Yeah. All right. So whatever. This is definitely sinners, though. Don't be jealous of sinners.
Rather have fear of God all day.
So bit yiras Hashem kol hayom.
I used having, but
Okay. But I think if you read it with the first half of the puzzle,
rather be jealous of those who are fearful of God.
Okay, here's the difficulty, right? So he's not talking to his son. He's talking to his son's. He's talking to his son about his heart. Don't let your heart be jealous of sinners, but rather, I think the implication is let your heart be in yiras Hashem kol hayom, or let your heart be jealous of yiras Hashem kol hayom. But that sounds weird, right? Let your heart be in fear of Hashem all day. Okay, well, let's try that out and see if it works. It's possible it could be the reading that let your heart be jealous of it. Also, I want to show you another thing, which again, I only know this because I'm familiar with the Gemara. There's a difference between chata'im and chotim, and we know this from the whole Bruria. I think it's a famous thing because it's one of the Gemaras that talks about Bruria, the wife of Rebbe Meir. Hanahu biryone dahavu. This is in Brachos Yod Amud Aleph. Hanahu biryone dahavu b'shivavuse de Rebbe Meir. Havu kam mitzaru le'tuva. Okay, so there was a biryone, which was like a it was one of those like rebels, right? The biryone pritzim. Okay, so some like scoundrel, right, person. Who was like I don't know what the shvivuse de Rebbe Meir is. What is shvivus? I think this is the neighborhood. Yeah, okay. The neighborhood of Rebbe Meir, okay. And he was causing him a lot of pain. Okay. So Habaka by Rebbe Meir Rachme Ilavohi Kihechi Dili Musu. So Rebbe Meir davened for him that he should die. Okay. Yeah. So then Amarle Bruria Debisuhu. So Bruria, his wife, said to him, "My datach, what are you thinking? Mishum dichsiv yitamu chataim." It says in Tehillim, this is a pasuk in Tehillim at the end of Barchi Nafshi. Kuf Daled Lamed Hey Yitamu Chataim Min Aretz Urashaim Od Enam Barchi Nafshi Es Adoshem Hallelujah. So let sinners cease from the earth and the wicked be no more. Bless Hashem, my soul, Hallelujah. So it says because it's written, let sinners cease from the earth. So it sounds like you're saying that sinners should die. And it says she says miksiv chotim. Does it say chotim? Chataim ksiv. Okay, so she differentiates between chotim and chataim. What was that?
Isn't this meaning to say the chait itself, not the person?
Oh, maybe I'm getting this wrong also. I'm just going to cheat and look at Stein's for a second. What is your thinking? On what basis do you pray for the death of these hooligans? I have to go to Ravioni. That's actually very good. Do you base yourself on the verse, let sin cease from the land, which you interpret to mean that the world will be better off if the wicked were destroyed? But is it written, let sinners cease? Let sin cease, it is written. Okay, so I guess chataim can mean sins. So I guess I was wrong. I want to pray for an end to the transgressions, not for a demise of the transgressors themselves. Okay, so we see from here that I don't know what we're talking about. Okay.
It works better, I think.
Yeah, in our case, it's definitely sinners, right? Don't be jealous of sinners. But yeah. All right. All right, now this is the part that's difficult. This is the part that's difficult. Yesh achris.
Whether there is an afterlife.
Okay, so that's good. For there is, yeah. So im here usually means if. Okay, but you see, Metzudas David says that. Okay, sometimes im means that.
Does that im together?
I don't think so, and I can't explain why. For there is achris. How do you translate achris?
Afterlife.
Yeah, so that would be an interpretation. Achris just means like an after thing, right? There is let's just say we're making up a word, okay? After thing, okay? V'tikvasecha lo tikares.
And your hope shouldn't be cut off.
And your hope will or should not be cut off. Yeah, very strange here.
That's interesting.
Yeah, okay, so let's look at the minimalist meforshim here. So Sadigon says, Kol Hayom is Kol Hazman, all the time, okay? Or all the time, okay? Not meaning, I think he's trying to get away from the implication that it's all day long. I guess he means like, it's not talking about 24 hours as opposed to 20 hours, but he's saying like, all the time. Targum Ksum says, Lo nitan libach b'chata'e ela b'tchalta delaka kol yoma. So he says every day. Okay, fine. Mitul de tehavilach acharisa tavsa. So he just says a good after thing. I think that's the implication according to everyone. V'sakuyach lo nigmar, and your hope will not end. Okay, fine. All right, so let's see the minimalist translators here. We need some help. Our scroll, let your heart not envy sinners, rather those who revere Hashem all the day. Okay, so he does say that the envy should go on be or envy. Yeah, all right, whatever. We'll just
property, like you put like the parentheses outside of the jealous part, like you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah. We'll just leave the R scroll here just so we can see it there. For it shall endure. It shall endure. I guess the years Hashem, he's saying, article, and your hope will not be cut off. So he's saying yesh achri. So he's saying the years Hashem is yesh achri. So the years Hashem has a lasting thing. Okay. Yeah, this is hard to translate. And your hope will not be cut off. Okay, we'll leave our scroll on the screen for once. Living Knox says, let your heart not envy sinners, but only those who fear God all day long. So he also takes that route. You will thus have a future, and your hope will not be dashed. Okay, so so he's saying it's the you that has. So the question is like who's the yesh going on, or what is the yesh going on? Alter says, let your heart not envy offenders, but in fear of the Lord all day long. Okay, so that's like we did. For if you keep it, okay, that's a fourth translation of yesh. There is a future, and your hope will not be cut off. Okay, and let's see what Alter's commentary says. In fear of Hashem all day long. The Hebrew seems to imply an elided verb, such as dwell. Oh, let your heart like dwell in the fear of Hashem all day long. Some scholars amend the phrase to fearers of the Lord. That's like what our scroll and Living Knock were doing. But envy seems the wrong attitude towards such people. Okay, so that's again Alter like weighing in, saying, oh, that doesn't seem right. And then if you keep it, he's saying the Hebrew lacks a verb, and the translation follows the Septuagint, which has a verb to this effect, evidently based on a Hebrew text showing tishmarena, if you keep it. Okay, so he's adding a word from the Septuagint. The antecedent of it, a feminine suffix in the Hebrew, would be fear of the Lord in the previous line. What does that mean? Feminine suffix of it. Oh, tishmarena. He's saying in the tishmarena would be fear of the Lord. Okay, fine. Let's conveniently ignore the Septuagint, like we have for millennia, for centuries. Okay, so one question we're seeing just in the translation is, how do we read yesh acharis? Okay, and we have four translations. Okay, one is there is, or it has, or you have, or there's a fourth one. I shouldn't have erased it. Just hold on, I gotta go back and see what Alter said. Or what did Alter say? Oh, if you keep it. So that we're not going to count. All right. So I guess we'll say three possibilities here. I mean, there might be more, but three that we've seen. So is it there is an acharis that's like yesham eloka, right? Like yesh can be used as like there exists. It has would be that fear of Hashem has. Okay.
Like has an everlasting effect.
Yeah. I.e., fear of Hashem has. Okay, or your envy of Hashem has, or it could be you have. Okay.
And how would you have fit into this?
It would say that if you let your heart be in fear of Hashem all day long, all the time, then you will have an acharis.
You'll have a
good end or a good after thing, whatever that is. Yeah, which we obviously have to now ask, what does acharis refer to? Yeah.
So wait, what's the difference between the first there is and the third you have? Like there is an after thing for those who envy Hashem, or you'll have.
It's a good question. I think there is a little bit more broad. I don't know. It might be that in practice there's gonna be no difference here, but I'm just in terms of translation wise, because like if you say like, like again, just to use two sentences in like rabbinic Hebrew, like yesh sham eloka means that there exists a God. It doesn't mean someone has a God, but I would say yesh li sefer, it means I have a sefer. So have or is are two different things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that, these pesukim are kind of like venturing out of the Mishlei realm.
You mean because the Acharis and Kares? Yeah. Is that why you thought of afterlife? Because of the Kares? Yeah, right. That definitely has that like feel to it, right? That we're talking about Kares here.
I was like Acharis, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Acharis.
Yeah, definitely has an afterlife type feel. Yeah. So so the question is, let's formulate those two into a question here, which is Pasuk Yud Ches talking about the afterlife? And if so, how do we understand this? How do we understand this in light of our approach to Mishlei? Again, that's it's not a bad question, but it's a like advanced question in the sense that like, if you just had the pasuk without any like background, then you wouldn't necessarily ask this question, but we do have a background. So yeah.
What practically is a suggestion of all of Yikane? How do you not? How do you?
Yeah. Okay. So how do you practically implement pasuk Yud Zayin, right? Like how do you not be how do you control your envy? Yeah. Okay.
I mean, and also jealous of what? Jealous of
right.
What of the sinners are doing?
What is the nature of this jealousy of chataim? Yeah.
Where is stemming from?
Yeah. What are you jealous of, and what is the cause? I think just another translation question is the second half of pasuk Yud Zayin saying rather your heart should be in Yiras Hashem, or rather your heart should be jealous of those who have Yiras Hashem, right? Like the article and others take it.
And if the latter,
yeah,
why be jealous?
Yeah, if the latter, why be jealous?
And how? Well,
and how?
And well, how are you by having fear of Hashem? What's it called? Help with the jealous sinners.
How
will the second half help?
How will this
mutually exclusive? I think.
So the second half is going to help because of Yud Ches, right? Like the Yud Ches is an argument for why you should do this, right? So I think the question is just like, what does Yud Ches mean? Also, another question on Yud Ches is Yud Ches saying two things or one thing, right? Yeah. Is Yud Ches saying one thing or two things? Yeah. It's funny also just to note, this is not a separate question, just an observation. This is now the third instance within the span of 3 pesukim that we've seen the word heart, right? That your heart should become wise, and then my heart will also become wise, and let your heart not be envious of chataim. So maybe I will convert this into a question here, but I'll put it as an after question. What is the relationship between the chachmas halev in pasuk tes vav and the kinas halev? Yeah, kinas halev or lack thereof in Yud Zayin. Yeah, Eli?
Just building or asking a question in regards to the eighth question. Are the pesukim that we looked at that involve the lave all part, I forgot who said it, all part of that those big cluster.
Yeah. So this is part of a super cluster and then a local cluster.
Right, I mean, but in terms of the super cluster, they all involve
Galaxies and
the
Mishlei.
heart.
Yeah, what?
The super cluster, like all of them, or the ones we've read so far, all contain this idea of lathe in it. Or just the local.
I don't think all of them do. I haven't actually looked. Let's just take a gander. Oh wait, do I open here? No, let's go. All right, whatever. Mishlei. We are in 23 currently, and then it's going to go into 24. But it looks like most of them are in 23. Lathe. So we've got starting with we got 15, 17. 19, 21, no, that's Talbish, 26, and 33. Yeah, so there's some of them, but it's not all of them. Yeah. Yara?
So just ask my question in a different way.
Yeah.
So for the first half of the pasuk for pasuk Yud Zayin,
Mhm.
well, what's the consequence of that of having jealous of the second?
Okay, that's a good question. Yeah.
And is pasuk 18 the consequence of the second?
Okay, yeah. So in other words, so I think it's a good question to ask, but the simple answer is don't be jealous of sinners, but rather in fear of Hashem all day long. Because if you have your heart in fear of Hashem all day long, then yesh acharis. But and your hope will not be cut off. But if you are jealous of sinners, then you won't have an acharis and your hope will not be cut off. Sorry, your hope will be cut off, right? So let's just ask this. In other words, I think that is saying what the consequence is, but the question is how,
Okay.
right? So let's say here, what is the cause and effect relationship between the advice in Yud Zayin and the benefits, consequences in Yud Ches? Yeah, Ezra?
It's considered a couplet.
Yeah, good question. Who are chataim in this context? Yeah, David?
Is it the same faculty within the person that has the pull to Chataim and the pull to Yirat Hashem?
That's a good question also. Let's add that to our question of here is moreover sorry, and what role does the lathe play in either case, right? Because it definitely is the lathe, right?
I would think so, based on just like the direct reading of the text.
Yeah.
Unless we were to say that it's your leave shouldn't go to Chataim, rather something else within you that's not mentioned should be pushing you toward your other.
Yeah, I think we would need evidence for that, but I think it's going to be the lathe. So that
Seemingly
yeah.
In terms of Tzikvatecha,
Yeah.
like hope, and then how is that cut off? Like,
Yeah.
what does that mean? How does that fit into the?
Yeah. So let's go with what does Acharis refer to? What does Tikva? I'm going to put all those in one question. What does Tikva refer to? And then what would Tikares mean? Yeah. Definitely sounds afterlifey. Okay.
Talk about Kol Hayom?
Say again?
Do we talk about Kol Hayom?
No, we did not. Yeah, what is being added by Kol Hayom? What is being added by Kol Hayom? And I'd also add, does this only qualify the second half of Yud Zayin, or also the first half? Right? Like, is it, in other words, is it like this, the audience is someone whose heart could be jealous of sinners all day, and then now it's saying, no, you should be in Yiras Hashem all day? Or like, is it just you're jealous of sinners when you're exposed to them, or like when they get success, and then instead of doing that, put your heart in Yiras Hashem all day, you know? Yeah. I would also say, how are the two halves of Yud Zayin opposites?
I was wondering the same.
Yeah, which I might just be lumped under. I'll just put this as a separate question here. How are the two halves of Yud Zayin opposites? Yeah.
Did we ask like what what does it mean that your hope will be cut off?
We did. Yeah. Okay, I feel like we're probably in a position to think about it now. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. So, right. So the question is, who is the audience? Now we know it's the Ben, right? Specifically. Okay, but was it who's the audience specifically?
Well, how do we know it's the Ben?
Because this is a continuation of the same. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. According to me, it reads in the pesukim also. I think. Like we just read the pesukim. It's saying, where are we? Yeah, my son, if your heart has become wise, then my heart also will rejoice. My kidneys will exult, and when your lips speak uprightness. Don't let your heart be jealous of sinners, but only in fear of Hashem all day long. Because there is a lasting outcome, and your hope will not be cut off. If you said it's not the son, you'd have to say that your is a completely different person that it's injecting without identifying it, and that's just not how you read.
Well, wouldn't we be identifying him as like just all the other pesukim of Mishlei? Yeah,
but then you don't change mid sentence, right? Like if I was saying like if it would be like this, right? If I said to you like, okay, if you're gonna go to if you're gonna prepare a meal for Shabbos, right? You're gonna need to go to the store. You're gonna need to like make sure you have enough supplies, and you're going to need to do this. And if the third thing I was saying was talking to some completely different person, that's just bad speech. Right. Like the pronoun would need a new antecedent. You need to identify it. Yeah. In isolation, you'd be right. Like if this puzzle just was in isolation, I'd say, yeah, it could just be the normal audience of Mishlei. But the fact that it's like in a chain of this, I don't think it's just a mirror thing. I think it's like you have to say it.
You can see it goes on, sorry, with your test also.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good point also. Yeah, but I'd say, yeah, that is a good riot, but I don't even think you need that for this. Yeah.
Is this advice only to be given to someone who's in his son's circumstances? So say that he's younger, that he's doing for his father, whoever else.
Yeah.
We're talking about his son giving this advice.
Okay, so let's expand on this, saying, granted, this is definitely for the son, but to what extent can this apply to a broader audience?
Like, is the sun like the Mishlei Podcast? Is this referring to specific?
Well, we had a theory about the son from before, right? Which is that the son is someone who's under his father's dominion and who's still young, right? But
So
then that's Rabbeinu Yonah, and seemingly some of the other meforshim said that this is talking about the father disciplining the son. But then we also had the Rid yesterday who said that the son is just us, just students of Mishlei, which would seem to be like everybody, so that's an open question. I was going to say something else, which is that, I feel like what I'm picturing I just made this came to mind because I said general audiences is like the motion picture rating, like G, PG 13 stuff. Be nice to have like little icons next to each pasuk that say like who the intended audience is, mature audiences only, yeah, Ellie.
A question like on this overall idea, it seems very similar to the first parak of Mishlei, although I haven't looked through it in a while. I recall him saying something similar about not following the way.
So I actually was going to read that, and I think I am going to read it now because the first parak of Mishlei, again, just to state for the record, real Mishlei, according to me, starts from chapter 10 and on, and the first 9 are introductory. According to Rabbi Zimmer, real Mishlei is only 1 through 9, and 10 through 31 is just an appendix, which he says half jokingly. But one of the differences between the first 9 and later on is from 10 and on is like individual proverbs or like at most like couplets or groups of pesukim. But 1 through 9 is like much more elaborate. And my theory is that we are intended to take the short pesukim in chapters 10 and on, and in our minds, when we discuss them, expand them into like big, treatments like this. So what I'm going to read here, I think this is what you're referring to, is like we should come up with this type of scenario for our pasuk. So it says, Bini, my son, if sinners seduce you, do not I think toveki means to desire or to yearn. Let me just make sure I'm getting that right. It does not mean to come. Do not consent. That's a good way to say it. Im yomru, if they say, come with us, we will lurk in ambush for blood. We'll hide out to strike an innocent person without cause. We will swallow this innocent person whole like the grave. And like the whole ones who go down to the pit. So it's talking about basically like murder and theft, right? Like we'll go like steal this person and just take everything they have. Kolhon yakar nimsa, we'll find all precious wealth. Nimalai batinu shala, we'll fill our houses with the spoils. Goracha tapil b'zchenu, cast your lot with us. Kis echad yehelu kulam, there will be one pouch for all of us, meaning we'll all share in one pot. Of money. My son, do not go on the path with them. Withhold your foot from their paths. Because their feet run to evil. They hasten to spill blood. Because the net is spread out with free bait in the eyes of every winged creature. That's a bird. And they meaning like the hunters in the mashal lurk for their blood. They hide out for their souls. So too all is the way of all thieves. The souls of their owners this is a machlokas here. Either the thieves will take the souls of the owners or the souls of the thieves will be taken. Yeah, so that's like an extended version of this warning. And he doesn't use the word jealousy, but it sounds like, let's say step one, this kid does not go and join the gang, but he's sitting at home, like looking out the window, like with envy, and like all the gang members running around, like killing people and taking their money, like it sounds like this is a precursor to, in other words, warning your kid not to be jealous of these people is like a prior step to saying don't go with them. Like don't go with them is like the real advice. Like that's gonna make or break you. But saying don't be jealous of them is like a precautionary thing. Yeah. So good call. Okay, I think we're ready to try to figure this out. Yeah.
So I guess just based off the first Yud Zion.
Yeah.
If you're assuming you're applying the idea of jealousy, like yours to, not yours, but jealousy to both halves of the pesukim. So jealous of the sinners, rather be jealous of those who fear Hashem. Then that makes it seem more like not combating jealousy, but kind of like redirecting.
Channeling it, yeah. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, yeah.
So almost to imply as though jealousy is like an essential human quality that you just have to channel the right way. Right. Which kind of, I would think, contradicts the last of the Aseret Dibros.
Well, the Aseret Dibros is not jealousy. It's coveting and desiring. It never says don't be jealous.
Oh, it doesn't use.
Yeah, it says lo sachmod and lo tisave. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But I would say, and I think this is what you meant, but I just want to clarify. When we say an essential human quality, you don't mean like every person is always jealous forever. You mean like it's like a natural or default. Yeah, right. Like theoretically it's possible to get over jealousy, but but it's something that we're expected to have, at least if we're in the Mishlei zone. Yeah. So I think that's a good approach. And if we take that approach, we have to figure out then, so this is kind of like giving us a step in question 5. How do we practically implement it? Which is, so it's not saying get rid of your jealousy, it's saying reroute your jealousy or channel it. So the question would be like, how do we do that? And it sounds like it's going to be much easier, even not knowing, it's going to be much easier to channel the jealousy than to, get rid of it, Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to
I have an idea.
100 second, Isaac? Yeah, Ariel?
He go first.
Okay, yeah, you go first, Isaac.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not fully happy with this idea, but I think there's like a certain feeling of when like you like see someone who's getting away with something that you know is bad, but like you don't have like a clear perspective on what the negative consequences are going to be for them.
Yeah.
Where then you're like, oh, they got away with it. And so it's saying, don't be jealous of them, but rather be jealous, or rather, whatever it is about you with them, because there's a later stage that you're not seeing right now.
Yeah.
And your hope that good decisions are going to be paid off won't be will not be cut off.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good overarching approach, which it's possible that's an umbrella that could fit many ideas. But just to comment on where that fits in the pasuk, jealousy is often going to be short-sighted, and yurches is definitely rerouting you to see the long term. Achris and tikva are both future-oriented things. So I think Isaac is correct that it almost reminds me, this is like the equivalent of what we said to the father about like discipline, don't withhold the staff from your son, which is shifting the father into a long-term perspective instead of a short-term. And this is doing the same thing for the son.
One thing also with Isaac saying.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I'm not going to be able to say anything for the next
Okay.
bit.
Thanks for the warning. Yeah.
Also
David?
within the words, Kim Yirah Hashem, that you're fearing God.
Yeah.
That there's like as is talked about a lot, how we do a lot of things because we're afraid that other people are going to see it, and the consequences is like, oh, someone else is going to see me, but no one else is going to see me, so then I can get away with it.
Right.
But
Yeah. Okay, that's a good point, right? So you know what? Hold on just a second. That's answering a question that we did not ask, which is let's go over here, which is actually, let's go over here. Why focus on Yiras Hashem of all things? Now, not that Yiras Hashem is a bad candidate, but there are a lot of things you could have said. Don't envy sinners, but envy tzaddikim. Don't envy sinners, envy chachamim. Envy tvuna, envy mussar, right? So why Yiras Hashem? So David is suggesting that one of the qualities of Yiras Hashem is that it's a contrast to yira of other things, or lack of yira of other things, and that's like channeling you to think of this. Yeah.
One other bonus benefit of acting Yirah Hashem, in a bonus benefit within you to other people, if you act with Yirah Hashem on your own, is I don't remember the exact how to say it, but whatever you practice is like what shows up in the game.
Yeah.
So if you practice on your own without other people being around and watching you, you're practicing acting properly.
Yeah.
Then when you are with other people, then that's your natural gear. You just
Okay.
turn into
That's
that.
a good point. Yeah. Aria?
Yeah, I have a little different approach.
Sure.
I think that this is a scenario where like the father is giving his son like the way of the world, like educating him on like what the future can look like.
Mhm.
And I think that when we see sinners, because sinners they get they probably get immediate return on what they do. It's
Right.
It's a pleasurable.
That's
life.
why they do it. This is to get
it's
immediate.
exactly
Yeah.
what they do. They steal to get money, and that's money, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he's saying there could be a possibility like a door that can be opened by observing people. Like that,
Yeah.
right? So so he's warning you against that because at the end of the day, there are consequences,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Instead, and that whole lifestyle is like a very almost like a very selfish way of looking at life.
Mhm.
I'm doing things to immediately benefit myself and not really caring or having any I don't know what's the word security in other things, and which brings me to my next thing about but if you have Yiras Hashem, right, the reward can be it can take a while,
Mhm.
but ultimately there's if you are in line with God's system, you'll still have the benefits of the world.
Right.
Yeah.
What your description is reminding me of, and also my examples that I have in my mind, is reminding me of when Shlomo HaMelech briefly went through his party phase, and briefly in only two pesukim, which is the first two pesukim of Kohelet 2. Amarti ani b'libi, this is during the experiment, capital T, capital E. Amarti ani b'libi l'chana anascha b'simcha u'rei b'tov. I said, now I'm going to go and experiment with simcha. Simcha here does not mean joy; it means partying, u'rei b'tov, and having a good time. V'hinei gam hu havel. This and this too was havel. Lischok amarti mehola l'simcha maza osa. To fooling around, entertainment, however you want to translate lischok. I said this is insanity, or this is just debauchery. L'simcha, and for partying, I said, what does this accomplish? So what does this accomplish? And the party, I think, is a good example of this. I'm not saying that is I'm not saying chataim in our pasuk is limited to that, but the party lifestyle is one of seeking immediate gratification, which even if it didn't have consequences, which it does, it also is just not investing in any long-term development or growth. So Mazo Osal, what did this accomplish? Whereas the pitch he's making here for Yiras Hashem is investing in an acharis, and whatever it is that would cut off your hope, you're gonna avoid that. Yeah.
Well, can you explain that one more time?
If you are partying is a lifestyle where you're seeking immediate gratification, exposing yourself to long-term harm and no long-term benefit. So whereas Yiras Hashem, it does have a long-term benefit. That's what I'm saying is the acharis, and your hope is not going to get cut off. Like, again, I don't know exactly what that means, but I can tell you, if someone who spends their entire 20s partying is cutting off certain hopes that he could have if he had invested that time in something that has long-term benefit.
Right, okay, yeah. I think we're saying the same thing.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm gonna probably say it in a little different way. Like the hope is going back to this Zion. If I don't act like sinners, then because the hope is immediate also in that respect. Like I could get immediate return on my investment by doing these things that are pleasurable. But it's telling you, don't do that because there are negative consequences, and don't think that you won't have anything coming from it, and your hope will still be intact.
Yeah. Right. I think this is on a similar route. And again, it's entirely possible that all the approaches we're saying can be unified into one, even though we're emphasizing different things. Yeah.
So in terms of just the overall idea behind, I would think the idea behind why someone may lean more towards sin than the fear of Hashem is that, right? Sin is like a natural default, or seeking pleasure is a natural default, the kind of going with that flow of the river.
Yeah.
As for the fear of Hashem, which is a very overwhelming awe-like state where you have to fight the tide and move forward.
Yeah.
So I think it's trying to say in the 18th pasuk about how that will be beneficial for you. You'll develop strength through that. Right.
Okay, that's good. Right. Yeah. Yiras Hashem, I feel like no matter how we define it, it is going to involve going against the natural tide. So, yeah. Okay. So let's do what we do at times when we get to this point in this year, which is read Metzudas David and then think about it for tomorrow. And then tomorrow we'll develop these approaches and then look more. Okay. So let's see. Metzudas David says, B'chataim Yudzayin, b'hatzlachas hachotim, in the success of those who sin. Okay, so that makes sense. I mean, but I don't know to what extent he's saying hatzlacha. See, I don't know about you. I was thinking in terms of the thing you'd be envying is the pleasure that they have. Hatzlacha might be something different, And for example, he might include in this people who become extremely wealthy in their business because they involve themselves in illegal operations. That's different than the partying example that I gave before. So I think this is going to be a fork in the crossroads in terms of what exactly are you being jealous of? Okay. All right. Next. Oh, and also who the sinners are. Ki'im rotzlomer rak asok kol hayom b'yiras Hashem. Rather involve yourself all day in Yiras Hashem. So he's not saying be envious of those who have Yiras Hashem. He's saying this is what you should do as the antidote or as the replacement for envying sinners. The al tefen el hatzlacha hasam. Don't pay attention. Literally, don't turn towards their success. Ki shelcha tov mishalahem. Your portion is better than their portion. What you get is better than what they get. Okay, why?
Probably doesn't mean quantitatively necessarily, more like qualitatively.
I would guess so. Yeah. Hold on. Ki'im rotzlamar ki shelcha hu davar asher yesh la achris, because your portion is something that has an achris, that has a lasting outcome. Ki azuchus yamod lacha ba'achris hayamim. Okay, so he does go with the afterlife. I assume achris yamim doesn't mean at the end of your life. I assume it means in the Mashiach olam haba. V'tikvas hagamul lo tikaras, and your hope of reward will not be cut off. Uvo tavo, and it will certainly come. Okay, so that again is not typically our approach to Mishlei, but there still might be ideas we can get from his approach for the first part or even the second part. Okay, we'll have to table this and come back to this tomorrow. Okay, have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.